door, there's no percentage there. So I think that would be very consistent with the way we've already done things, just by calling it a tavern permit or whatever we wind up calling this.
Okay. That would also cover catering, like what the water wine does, because that's off premise. That is retail, but it is off premise, as opposed to whatever it is that they sell actually on premise, and that would be a difference. That would fall into the same thing as and be consistent with restaurants.
And David, correct me if I'm wrong. Did the state legislature amend that tax law for off-premise sales because they were allowing mixed drinks to go out the door, and that is not considered a mixed drink because it's not served in-house? Are they correcting that sales tax?
Well, that was actually under executive order of the governor that allowed for the sales to go out the door of mixed drinks. I don't believe they have figured out a mechanism yet if they want to do anything different, but technically those sales that go out the door, they don't pay the additional mixed drink tax because they're not consumed on premise. And that's the whole deal with on premise mixed drink tax. So they still have not dealt with that issue. So right now, anybody that walks out with it, they don't technically have to pay that extra 5% tax.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not a growler user, but I got a question. Do people walk into a tavern, get their growler filled, and sit down at the bar and drink it there occasionally, or do they always take it out? Do we know how that works?
This is Andy. I can answer that. No, it's absolutely, they bring their growler in to take it out. Now, sometimes they might drink a beer while waiting for the growler to be filled, but it's absolutely 100% consumed out of the building.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
That pretty well covered.
Was there any other items that you needed the board to clarify for us before we have to quit the workshop here in a couple minutes?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I'm understanding. If we're going to keep the tavern permit as is, and then also create a brew pub permit, essentially, does the board want to stipulate a production limit or distribution limit in that permit? Staff is prepared to recommend numbers, but I just want to see if you do want to do that or not.
Yeah, could we, when we create that permit for the brew pubs and microbrewery, can we put a number there so that we could then qualify it as a brew pub or a microbrewery? You know, I don't know what that number of barrels or whatever would be, but or kegs, but could we simply put a number and then say, well, okay, because it's below this number, it's a brew pub, and if it's above this number, it's a microbrewery?
We certainly could do that. In cities where there are different levels of production, I think it makes sense. You know, you want to differentiate your small scale from your light industrial to your industrial. I don't know if that makes sense here. Most breweries in the country of all scales produce less than 1,000. About 75% produce less than 1,000. 95% produce less than 15,000 barrels a year. And so,
I can break in just quickly because I know Andy came to because he is interested in square footage, and we still have not touched increasing the square footage on the tavern. So we kind of need to move on that for his sake. And we're running out of time in this workshop to do that. So I'm not sure if Trevor is ready to put into ordinance form so that we can talk about that and build around that. But we kind of need to help him out because he's been asking this and we've been talking about this for a few months now. So I don't know what our path forward.
Well, I have an ordinance pretty much drafted on both pieces of this, both the beer ordinance and both the zoning piece, to pretty much take to both bodies for actual votes. I guess the question is, are you comfortable increasing the maximum square foot of a tavern to 4,500 square feet? And are you comfortable with a brew pub being up to 6,500 square feet?
This Alderman Pinchuk, I'm fine with both of those.
Mayor Williams.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mayor.
Mayor Williams, fine with it as well.
Alderman Meyer, I'm fine.
Then I'm fine too.
Alderman Burnett's fine as well.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're done.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, board. I appreciate that. And I know it's right up against the clock for our regular meeting, so I will turn things over to the mayor.
Okay, the time's approximately 7 p.m., August 13th, 2020. Farragut Board Mayor and Alderman meeting will now come to order. Now we'll be operating again on Governor Lee's executive order. Number 16/3451. Due to the COVID pandemic, Order 16 concerning electronic means, which is extended by Executive Order 34, June 30th of 2020, which has now been extended to Executive Order 51, which will be enforced through August 29th, 2020, which at that time it will expire. In accordance with the Executive Order, live access to the virtual meeting is made available through Charter Channel 193 or TDS Channel 3. During this period of time, all citizen agenda or forum comments and questions along with a name and an address should be emailed to comments@townoffarragut.org and should have been received by 12 o'clock today in order to be included in the record of the meeting. All Farragut Board Mayor and Alderman meetings will be public notice per Tennessee state law. They will also be recorded and can be reviewed later on the Town of Farragut YouTube channel. Pursuant to the governor's executive order, all votes taken will be by roll call vote tonight. I will now ask the town recorder, please take an attendance roll call for a quorum.
Had to find my unmute button. Couldn't find it. Have Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer here.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Alderman Pinchuk here.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin here.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams present, and for the record, we ask that all media please be identified as well.
Believe we have Margie Hagan, Michelle, and that looks like all of it on the call tonight.
Okay, great. Okay, we'll start out with, and I'll ask you, town recorder, about our amended agenda tonight.
Yes, sir. Our amended agenda will include items H and I. It is the Legacy Parks Foundation Charitable Assistance Agreement and the approval of the property at 623 Concord Road.
Okay, then I'll ask for a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, okay, let's see here. Then I'll ask the town recorder to take a roll call vote for that.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Alderman Pinchuk, yes.
Alderman Pavlin. Alderman Pavlin.
Oh, I'm sorry. I muted and then unmuted. Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that the amended August 13th, 2020 agenda has been approved as stated. Okay. Next will be approval of minutes. I'll need a motion, please.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay. Now, it's, again, for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Alderman Pinchuk, yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that the July 23rd, 2020 minutes have been approved and will be recorded as official minutes of that meeting. Okay, next will be the mayor's report. And again, I urge everyone to stay with the physical distancing and a face mask when you're around each other. With the daily updates that we're getting now, we're seeing increasing cases, and the number of deaths are going up as well here in Knox County. So it's showing that the folks are not really taking this very seriously. And I again stress that everyone needs to take it seriously, please. I'll now yield the floor to the vice mayor for her report.
Thank you, Mayor Williams. I wanted to just briefly state our kids are heading back to school, whether they're and everybody is really about sure that children are safe, receiving education. We need that they're moving along. I know a lot of parents have been doing a lot of great work with our schools. We had a drive for picnic tables for Farragut High School. Parents and businesses showed up and really helped out the school so that kids could sit together but eat and socially distance while they were outside. I know the parents got together this past weekend and cleaned up the intermediate and middle school campus. So we're all trepidatiously excited about getting our kids back to some kind of normalcy. I know they all miss their friends, so I wish them all luck and well, and I hope that they all stay safe.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other aldermen have anything to report?
Yeah, this is Alderman Pinchot. I'd like to congratulate Alderman Pavlin and Alderman Burnett on their victories in the most recent election. So glad to still have you on, both of you on board. Congratulations.
Thanks, Ron.
Okay, I echo that.
Thank you. I'll say thank you, I think.
Well, I'm glad to have you both on the board as well.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to a full slate of agenda items tonight. We have 3 ordinances to review tonight. The very first one will be a public hearing on the second reading. The ordinance number 20-08, an ordinance to define a drug treatment facility / clinic, medical, dental, or veterinarian facility, clinic, and pain management facility or clinic to provide for drug treatment and pain management facilities, clinics, and associated development criteria in the regional commercial C2 district.
Good evening. This is Mark Shipley. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Basically, just a quick overview of this for second reading. Ordinance 20-08 really reflects an attempt to put some provisions in place to address drug treatment clinics and pain management clinics. We really, right now, before this ordinance, they would fall under the general medical uses that are permitted in most of our commercial and office zoning districts. So this particular ordinance establishes definitions for drug treatment clinics and pain management clinics, and also clarifies the existing definition of medical, dental, and veterinary facilities. It restricts pain management and drug treatment clinics to the C2 regional commercial district, and it has a 1,000-foot buffer from child care type facilities like schools and child care facilities. And there's also some development criteria that's associated with those uses that are provided for in the ordinance. At their meeting in June 18th, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of Ordinance 2008, and it was also approved unanimously on first reading on July 23rd, and the staff recommends approval of Ordinance 20-08 on second reading. There have been no changes to the ordinance since first reading.
I'm going to move to approve.
I'll second.
Looks like we have no comments tonight on this, so we'll move on to discussion with Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, pass.
Alderman Pinchot,
Alderman Pinchot, I pass.
Alderman Burnett,
Alderman Burnett, pass.
Vice Mayor Pavlin.
Vice Mayor Pavlin, pass.
Okay, the mayor will pass as well. Okay, with a motion and a second on the floor, ask the town recorder to please take a roll call vote.
Alderman Pavlin,
Sorry, wasn't ready for that. Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett,
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer,
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchot,
Alderman Pinchot, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that ordinance 20-08 has been approved on the second reading. Okay, next will be two ordinances that will be for public hearing on the first reading. We'll start off with ordinance 20-04, an ordinance to amend the Farragut Municipal Code, Chapter 109, signs, by replacing it in its entirety. Town of Farragut applicant.
As you may remember, we reviewed this a couple of weeks ago as a workshop item, or 3 weeks ago. And at that time, I provided an overview of the ordinance, and basically the reason why we updated the ordinance. There were several reasons, but the primary reason was to make it consistent with the Supreme Court's decision in 2015 dealing with content neutrality on signs. We also talked about the process that was used to develop the sign ordinance. We had a steering committee that was appointed last April, and we worked on several drafts of the ordinance, and ultimately the ordinance was presented to the Visual Resources Review Board on May 26th after the Planning Commission had looked at it on May 21st. And both of those boards have recommended approval of ordinance 20-04. It was unanimously recommended for approval on June 18th by the Planning Commission, and the staff recommends approval of ordinance 20-04 on first reading. And I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
See, about any questions?
Well, you want me to make a motion first?
Go ahead.
I'm going to move to approve ordinance 20-04 on first reading.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a first motion and a second. Let's just go ahead and move on to discussion. And we'll start out with Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, pass.
Okay, Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, pass.
Okay, Alderman Pinchot.
Alderman Pinchot, I pass.
Okay, Vice Mayor Pavlin.
We've been through this. I guess Alderman Pinchot was on the sign committee, and he also is on the VRRB, so he's reviewed it, and I've seen it from the Planning Commission. So I don't really have any questions any other questions, so I pass as well.
Okay, the mayor wants to thank the steering committee and the staff for their tireless work on this project. It's I've been to a few of the meetings, and they were very much a hands-on discussion type of thing with everybody involved. We had a lot of good input, and I think we have a really good ordinance now. So that's all I've got. And with motion and second on the floor, I'll ask the town recorder to please take a roll call vote.
Alderman Burnett,
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer,
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchot,
Alderman Pinchot, yes.
Alderman Pavlin,
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that ordinance 20-04 has been approved on the first reading with a 5-0 vote. Let's let's see here, wait just a minute. Hold on just a minute, please. Let me look at something real quick. Okay, that is correct. Okay, next will be ordinance 2011. Ordinance 2011 is an ordinance to amend the equipment fund for fiscal year 2020-2021 budget, passed by ordinance 20-07.
Yes, sir. For this agenda item, we are looking to amend the equipment fund, and it'll be increasing the appropriate expenditures from $208,000 to $223,000, which is an increase of $14,760. The increase in the expenditures is due to the unforeseen purchase of a new truck. So we are going to have to increase those expenditures for the budget. So with the $14,760 adjustment, the amended fund balance for the equipment fund will be $876,000. And the motion is to approve ordinance 2011 on first reading.
Okay,
I'm going to move to approve ordinance 20-11 on first reading.
Yeah, I'll second it.
okay. At this point, we can move on to discussion. We'll start out with Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, pass.
Okay, Alderman Pinchot,
Alderman Pinchot, I pass.
Alderman Burnett,
Alderman Burnett, I pass.
Vice Mayor Pavlin.
Yes, David, I have a quick question. Does this, this all we will need, this, with this amendment, this budget amendment, we can cover the rest of the equipment that we were planning on purchasing for this
Ma'am.
fiscal year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We've already purchased most of the equipment. There's one other piece of equipment on tonight's agenda, and that's why we need to amend the budget to include a little bit more money. And in fact,
Okay.
in the next few months, we'll wind up surplusing some of these pieces of equipment that are older, and those monies will go right back into the equipment replacement fund. So at the end of the year, we'll probably be okay with the amount of money that we'll spend from the budget. But right now, we need to address those funds and allocate those funds to be able to purchase this skid steer loader that's on your agenda here in a little bit.
Okay, can I ask you quickly, when we do our budgeting, do we account for the sales of this equipment as part of our budgeting? Do we estimate how much we think we'll get in when we sell all these used pieces of equipment?
No, ma'am, because we always put it on Gov Deals, and we just never know what we're going to get from those sales. So at the end of the day, all those sales just go back into fund balance of the equipment replacement fund to help us
Okay.
the following year and the following year.
Okay, but you believe that our whatever we sell is going to over the 14,000. It'll be more than the 14,000 we're allotting right now.
We have a truck. We have the existing skid steer loader. I think we're going to get a pretty good amount from that. So I have a feeling we're going to get over this 14,760 in surplus sales, but we won't know until we put it on Gov Deals and get the bids back.
Understood. That's all I needed to go. No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor Pavlin, and I have no questions. With the motion and second on the floor, I will again ask the town recorder, please take a roll call vote.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchot.
Alderman Pinchot, yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Okay, let the record show ordinance 2011 to amend the equipment fund fiscal year 2021 budget has been approved with a 5-0 vote. Okay, we're going to move on now to the business items. We have 9 items on tonight's amended agenda. We'll start off with approval of requests for a variance from the number of excess points permitted on a local street as provided for the driveways and other accessories ordinance in relation to the property at 11740 Weather Vane Drive. John David and Allison Deason applicants.
Yes, this item involves a request for a variance from the number of access points that's permitted on a local street. Those are streets that are typically interior to subdivisions, as provided for in our driveways and other access ways ordinance. This particular property, as you can see there, is a corner lot at the intersection of Weather Vane Drive and South Monticello Drive in Village Green. And based on their total frontage, the ordinance would provide for 2 access points. The house is undergoing and really finished with some significant renovations. Historically, the access point has only been off of Weather Vane Drive, but as part of their renovations, they had requested to have a circular drive on South Monticello for extra parking and just to have from their perspective, a safer situation, for people parking instead of being forced to park on the street. They would have a place to park on the property since it's there at the intersection. The idea of that circular drive, I did talk with them early on in the process and indicated that it wouldn't be allowed under our code. But the language, frankly, is pretty confusing. And when they submitted the building plans, there was an error in approval that it was approved as circular drive as part of the building plans through the code staff. And I think really the reason is that the language of the ordinance, and we talked about this at the Planning Commission meeting, really needs to be more clear. One of the things I think the applicant's position was that, they're on a corner lot, and basically a circular drive, if they can meet the criteria that's provided for circular drives in the ordinance, and there's a lot of very specific criteria for lots that have less than 200 feet of frontage, at least, the frontage where the circular drive is proposed, that would count in lieu of the otherwise permitted 1 access point. So that was a point of confusion, I think. And that's something that the staff has prepared an ordinance that will be taken to the Planning Commission next Thursday for their consideration to really clean up the language that deals with corner lots and circular drives. So it would, if approved, it would make this situation legal by right. And so for that reason, and the fact that it was a safer situation to have people parking on the property instead of along South Monticello, the Planning Commission did unanimously support the variance at their meeting on July the 18th. So with that, I think the applicant is probably here as well if you have any questions from them. It's kind of an overview of how we got to this point. Hopefully the text amendment that's forthcoming will take care of this so this is not an issue in the future.
I'm going to move to approve the variance request for the reasons noted by the Planning Commission.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got to do discussion now, please.
So
We'll start off with Alderman Pinchot.
Never mind.
Yeah, this Alderman Pinchot, I have visited this site, and I'm all for them parking on the property versus on the street. The streets are narrow, and some of our side streets are narrow enough that if we get a lot of cars parked on the street itself, it makes it tough to navigate. So if they've widened their driveway on Weather Vane, and they've got this circular driveway on Monticello, and if they're going to have a lot of visitors, I'd much rather have the cars on the property than on the side street. So I'm all for it.
Okay, Alderman Meyer.
Just I echo what Alderman Pinchot already mentioned. The only question I have is, Mark, when the text amendment's completed, would this variance actually be covered in the new version of the ordinance? So therefore, when the new version comes out, this will meet it anyway.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
it will.
That's what,
It's,
okay.
and the way it's worded currently, of course, it hasn't been presented yet formally, but it would only be an option for corner lots that have at least 350 feet of frontage to have a circular drive in lieu of the second access point that they would be permitted on a corner lot. So it would provide for this situation, and this would be legal with that language.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to say I appreciate Mr. Deason's thoughts on safety, and I think it's a great idea, and I support the variance 100%.
Okay, Alderman Burnett.
Yep, I've been out to the property as well, and I think the circle drive variance makes a lot of sense. So, yep, I'm in support of it.
Vice Mayor Pavlin.
I have nothing.
Nothing. I've looked at it as well. I think it's a perfect application for what they're asking for. So with that, we'll ask the town recorder to go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Alderman Pinchuk, yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. And now let the record show that the variance has been approved as requested. Okay, next will be approval of bid for one 2019 Case skid steer compact loader. I think that is a TF 450.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Mayor. This is the purchase of our 2019 Case skid steer loader. Our current loader is one from 2006. It's making the end of its useful life. This one is based off of our Sourcewell, which is a state contract that we have, and the purchase would be for $72,500. This is a little different than the one we have currently. We're going from tires to tracks. Tracks give us a little better opportunity to get on steeper slopes, especially when it's wet outside, to have more control and traction. And so we wanted to go to this different option. Luckily, our current skid steer loader, all of the elements that attach to it will be able to be used on this one as well. So staff would ask for your approval of the contract with Contractors Machinery in the amount of $72,500.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. We'll start off with Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett will pass.
Pass. Vice Mayor Pavlin.
Pass.
Alderman Pinchuk.
I've got one question. Anytime I've had one of these in my backyard, the tracks has a tendency to tear up the turf more so than tires. Where are we going to be using this? Are we going to be using it on turf? I would assume at some point. And have they improved these tracks so they don't do as much damage?
You know, Alderman Pinchuk, this is a great question for Mr. McKelvey. If he's able to put away his steak and potato real quick and answer this question for you, I'd really appreciate it.
Down his drink too.
This is Bud McKelvey. To answer your question, these tracks actually do less damage if used properly on grass, turf, gravel, dirt. They don't dig in as bad as tires do. The units that Case is selling now, they sell 1 unit of tired vehicles versus 8 units of these tracks units, and that's how much they've improved these units.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Okay, Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, pass.
Okay. Well, I think it's a great choice to switch for safety reasons, if nothing else. These are a lot more stable than the wheel models, and I think it's a real good choice. So that's all I've got. And with the motion and second on the floor, I'll now ask the town recorder for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Hovland,
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett,
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer,
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchot,
Alderman Pinchot, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that the bids have been approved. Okay, next will be approval of the Farragut Museum charter revisions. Okay.
Mayor, I can go over these charter revisions with the board. At our last workshop, we discussed some various provisions to change for the museum committee charter. Those are all in your packet. I'll just cover a couple of the highlights. They're all in red and underlined and underscored in your packet. One would be moving the number of committee members from 11 to 9 voting members. This would also allow for, instead of two 2-year terms, it will allow for 2 4-year terms. Excuse me, 4 2-year terms, basically doubling the service time that people would be able to have on the committee. It also changes the language that required 10 meetings a year to be held for the committee, that the committee should hold meetings as needed during the fiscal year to give them more flexibility in their schedule. So with that, those are all the amendments and changes that were proposed in the last workshop, and we would ask the board's approval.
I'm going to move to approve the proposed amendments to the Farragut Museum Committee Charter.
I'll second it.
Okay, bear with me. I just dropped my packet, so I need to find my next sheet. Okay, so bear with me. I've got a floor full here. Yeah. Well, sorry, folks. I'll hopefully find it here in just a minute.
Did we need to do any discussion? Does anybody need to do any discussion on this?
I have a question. On the, all right, the committee shall has been changed to should hold meetings as needed. I thought by changing the shall to should, we were going to eliminate the as needed. Did I misunderstand that at the workshop?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Seems a bit redundant with both in there. No big deal, but.
Actually, just to chime in for a minute, Jen and I went back and watched the video, and that was one of the areas we were unsure, kind of, that's what the area you all were talking about or not. So I went ahead and put it in where we thought you were talking about. So you do want to amend that. You are probably thinking correctly. It's just we weren't sure where that shall and should be placed.
Okay, I have a question for clarity then. Alderman Pinchot, do you think it should read, the committee should hold meetings during each fiscal year?
Yes, that's what I thought I had proposed at the workshop, and I thought we agreed to it. So I was surprised that the as needed was still in there. But I guess I need someone to clarify, do we need it in there or not? I don't think we do.
It sounds a little bit like a free-for-all when you say they should hold meetings during the fiscal year. I think as needed makes it sound like, okay, if it's necessary, have a meeting. If it's not necessary, you don't have to have a meeting. It helps give clarity, I think.
So Vice Mayor Coughlin, do you suggest that we keep the as needed in?
Yes, because it's not required. It just kind of gives clarity as to why you would need a meeting because if it's necessary. Because the word should basically is doing what it needs to do, which is making it not mandatory.
I actually prefer shall over should, but I think I say the committee shall hold meetings as needed during each fiscal year. I mean, should acts like the board, mayor, alderman's just suggesting if you feel like it, great. If you don't, whatever. And I think shall is a little bit more definitive by saying they shall have meetings as needed during the fiscal year. But I'm okay with whatever specified.
I agree with you, Scott, because it gives it, it is an important committee. Yes, we don't want to waste anyone's time, but we don't want it to sound like, oh, you can meet if you want to, you can meet if you don't want to. It makes it more serious when you say you shall meet as needed. So
yeah, I agree.
I think the question there, and we've had this with other committees, is if we put a number there, then and they don't need to have a meeting, they're penalized. And I think by saying shall hold meetings as needed, well, I don't know. It's confusing to me that way. I just thought it would be simpler to put should hold meetings during each fiscal year, but I'm fine. Whatever y'all want to suggest and agree to is fine with me. Either way.
well, Mayor Williams, what's on that one? What do you think? Did you find his papers?
Not yet. Like I said, I had a mess in the floor that just what I cannot find is the sheet that had all the current members and the ones that the years as far as the ones and the twos.
I don't have that in my packet either.
That was a separate email from Allison.
Oh, I just found
I
it.
do have that in front of me, if that will help any to ask questions of terms and names that are currently on there.
Okay, I found it finally, and I'm very surprised that I did because it was not where I thought it was. Okay, okay. What this boils down to is let me get back over here to it. What we need to do is to go ahead and vote on this particular item, and then we'll worry about resetting the members. So,
Mayor, could you clarify what you wanted in that line that we've been discussing? Because you were the one that was added the as needed, I believe, and I was the one that suggested we move from shall to should. So what do you want to see there? That's your committee.
Well, I think when and I'm looking at my notes now because that's really what I was looking for to see. I think before you recommended shall, and I think that's as versus should, if my notes are correct.
It was originally shall. I suggested should.
Okay, other way. And that was marked through, and we put should, and we marked through 10, and it was hold meetings, and then we added as needed. And that's the way amendment reads.
Yes.
The question is, what do you want?
I think we should go with how we've got it written.
That works for me.
Works for me. That's fine.
Okay, then we have a motion and a second, please.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Alderman Pinchuk, yes.
Alderman Pavlin,
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Okay, let the record show that the museum charter revisions have been approved. And now we need to move on to reset the number of committee members based on the charter revision. And I'll start out with a suggestion of 9 members. There will be staggered terms with 4 members at 2 years and 5 members at 1 year. The members set at 1 year will not have the 1 year count for their maximum total, as it will not start prior to 2020 when we did the charter revision, which is tonight. Okay. And at that point, I'll go ahead and make my recommendations as far as committee members, and we can go from there. We'll start off with the 1 years, and that would be Carolyn Coker, Dot LaMarche, Joyce Moran, and Bill Rhodes. And then for the 2 year, it would be Annie Judkins, Todd Klepper, Barbara Murphy, and Steve Stowe.
Is that your 9, Mayor
Yeah.
Williams?
Yes, it is.
I'm going to move to approve with your 9.
Hey, Mayor, was that 8 or 9?
Mayor, that was only 8 names. I think you may have been one short on your 1 year terms. You mentioned wanting 5 and you only mentioned 4 names.
Could you go over that list again? I'm sorry, I missed 1 or 2 myself.
Okay, Carolyn Coker, Dot LaMarche, Joyce Moran, Bill Rhodes, and that would be the 5 members. Let's see, let me make sure here. And then the 2 members, let's see, Todd, Annie, Barbara, Steve. And looks like, oh, I'm 1 short.
I think you left your name off, Mayor.
Excuse me?
You have to do yourself, Mayor?
I think you left your name off.
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't think we're not listing each other as members as far as the total committee, are we?
Yes.
We are?
Aren't we? Yes. I thought so.
Yeah, that's number of voting members. You're a voting member.
Okay,
So that's your
I
9.
would be I'd be the 1 year. So Carolyn Coker, Dot LaMarche, Joyce Moran, Bill Rhodes, Ron Williams, and then the 4 would be Annie Judkins, Todd Klepper, Barbara Murphy, and Steve Stowe.
Okay, I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, then any discussion?
I'll move places.
Mayor Pavlin, Vice Mayor Pavlin, I mean? Excuse me.
I have no questions.
None? Alderman Burnett?
No questions.
Alderman Meyer?
Alderman Meyer, pass.
Alderman Pinchot?
Alderman Pinchot, pass.
Mayor Williams? I have none, so at that point, let's go with a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Burnett,
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer,
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchot,
Yes.
Alderman Pavlin,
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that the museum committee membership for the 2021 has been set per charter revisions. Okay, next will be the resolution R 2020-07. That's authorizing the town to participate in the Public Entity Partners, Safety Partners Matching Grant Program.
Yes, Mayor. Every year we're able to work with our liability insurer, public entity partners, and they give out grants for municipalities that have good workers' compensation numbers, and for equipment items that go towards helping our cause and safety and things like that. So this year, it's a matching grant up to $2,000. We're allowed to use COVID-related expenses this year for the grant, and I think Trevor has already got the grant ready to process as soon as the board passes this resolution. So we would ask that your approval of Resolution R-2020-07 to approve the grant request.
Motion.
Move to approve.
Second it.
Is that Ron Pinchot?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, looks like, any discussion on this? I'll start out with Alderman Meyer,
Alderman Meyer, pass.
Alderman Pinchot,
Alderman Pinchot, pass.
Alderman Burnett,
Okay.
Vice Mayor Pavlin.
Vice Mayor Pavlin, pass.
I pass as well. And let the record show that excuse me, I guess we'll need for a roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchot.
Alderman Pinchot, yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show Resolution R 2020-07 has been approved unanimously as stated. And next will be Resolution R 2020-08, a resolution in opposition to the proposed rezoning in the town of Farragut urban growth boundary.
Yes, Mayor. We've received a notification from the Knox County Planning Organization that there was a rezoning in our urban growth boundary. That's typical communication that we receive anytime that we have a rezoning or some kind of impact in our urban growth area. They let us know so we can make comments to the staff and give those to them for the Planning Commission and maybe ultimately to the County Commission for their review and acceptance. In this case, there is a piece of property that is located just across from the Clarity Point nursing facility there on Concord Road in our south urban growth area. It is zoned currently commercial neighborhood. And if you think about in Knox County where the Choteau area is, where Don Gallo and Weigel's and that area, that's the type of development that could go here. So smaller units, I think 5,000 square foot buildings, even some residential could possibly be here. There's an application before the commission right now to change the sector plan to office and then also change the plan to high density residential for the zoning and for the sector plan, which will allow up to 18 units per acre. If you see the surrounding area, currently it's single family homes that are detached single family homes. And so this resolution before you tonight is also to request and send to the Planning Commission and to the County Commission that the town of Farragut is opposed to this rezoning. Our land use plan, our future land use plan, shows this area as up to 8 units per acre, possibly for medium density residential, as a feathering in or a transition zone to the Concord Road area from the less dense residential area to the east and to the north. So this resolution before you tonight does request or does state that you're opposed to the rezoning in our town of Farragut urban growth boundary, and we would ask your approval.
I'm going to move to approve Resolution R 2020-08, a resolution by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the town of Farragut.
This is Alderman Pinchot, can I second it? Sorry, I thought you were done.
That's all right. That's a long motion.
Okay, Louise, you want to start off with a discussion on this one?
All right. I got a chance to speak to John Schoonmaker about, so prepared basically a small statement of fact
and the application that I'm going to distribute to the neighborhoods directly behind this proposed rezoning so that they can contact John Schoonmaker to get educated. This is not due to be heard by the Planning Commission till September, the September meeting. So that'll give them time to get educated so that they can. I do believe, well, John Schoonmaker indicated that he supports its current zoning. He believes that it should be their commercial neighborhood, which restricts the size of the buildings. I think that's an appropriate use. I indicated to him that our land use plan calls for medium density, which is 8 units an acre, and he indicated that he had some trouble with that because where that falls for a zoning district for them is 6 to 10 units per acre. They don't have like medium density up to 8 units per acre. And I'm not sure that they could, I'm not sure if it's like their planned residential where they can set the density, as well as in our mixed, in our medium density, we envision single family attached or single family detached for medium density. So that doesn't quite align with, I think, what the Knox County has. So I think when we look at our town center land commercial, so that it ties into what, depending upon what happens with this rezoning request, so it ties in with what the county is thinking for that area. Other than that, I was thinking of meeting with Amy Brooks, who is the interim executive director for the Knox County planning group, on different issues or different thoughts that I have. I would be happy to discuss this as well if this is something that we think needs to be discussed further with Amy Brooks, but that's up to you guys. I can leave that out of the conversation and talk about the other stuff that I need to kind of address with her. So that's kind of where I am.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor Pavel and Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, pass.
Okay, Alderman Pinchot.
Yeah, I want to make sure I'm clear on something. I'm not sure how this works, but they're looking for 18 dwellings per unit per acre. We've got, I believe, about an 8-acre piece of property. So if it were just apartment, the most they could have is about 140 apartments. And I don't think they would want to put 140 apartments right on Concord Road there, but who knows? But that's my only concern is of course, the number of units. And if we could find some way to lower that, then that would be my only concern.
Alderman
Well,
Burnett.
I'm sorry, Alderman Pinchot. The problem with that is they're allowed up to four-story buildings, which really is inappropriate for being backed up against single-family residential. So my understanding is that their zoning act works differently than ours. So they have to get special permission, I think, to get to the 18 units per acre. But once they're there, they can go to four stories. And that's really the issue, is the height of those buildings that are allowed in there.
I'm totally confused with their zoning issue there as well. So I think we need some kind of better clarification so we know what we're talking about and what we're going to be voting on.
Alderman Pinchot, if I can. So the area that we're talking about, they're asking to go from commercial neighborhood to office for their zoning. Then what they're asking is a sector plan amendment to go to high density residential. That's a use on review, which is what Vice Mayor Pavlin was just referring to. And if they get approved for a use on review, then they can go up to 18 units per acre for that site. So as you mentioned, 140 units on 8 acres. It's next to single story to 2-story single family homes. These would no doubt be 4-story buildings, if that. I'd probably think close to what you see north of the interstate, near where the future Topgolf is going to be. That was also a property that's 18 units per acre, right there on that corner. It's a small corner there. Correct, the Tapestry.
The Tapestry is 18 units, yeah.
Correct. So that's the issue. Is obviously it's going to change the look and feel of that corridor immensely if that was to go in there.
Thank you for that explanation. I would definitely be against that, of course.
Alderman Burnett?
Yeah. Yeah, I do not think a 4-story, 144 apartment building in that location makes any sense. I did get to talk to John Schoonmaker as well. I know he supports the current zoning, which I do as well. I guess my question is, this is part of the urban growth boundary, and I guess I'm still in the dark as to, doesn't this have to come through us if something were to be rezoned?
Alderman Burnett, the only thing that comes to us in regards to our urban growth boundary is for them to notify us that something is happening. Now, what is part of your resolution, which is important, if you look at the last two whereas clauses, and I'll read those so we can read it in the record. It says, whereas the Comprehensive Growth Plan Act, which is Tennessee Code Annotated 658-107A, provides that once a growth policy plan has been adopted and approved, all land use decisions made by the legislative body and the municipalities or county's planning commission shall be consistent with the growth plan. So the key is it shall be consistent with the growth plan. And whereas the growth policy plan adopted by Knoxville, Knox County, and the town of Farragut expressly established that the policy that rezonings in the urban growth boundaries shall be consistent with the applicable sector plan adopted by the Metropolitan Planning Commission or the Farragut Land Use Plan as appropriate, or one created hereafter in Knox County under provisions of state law. That's the Growth Policy Plan, Section 5.2. So it requires that it be consistent with either the county plan or our plan, not both. So the key is if it's not in conjunction with one or the other, then it could not be approved and should not be approved based on the Growth Policy Act.
And so to get
Right now, that's the way it works. They would have to get a sector plan amendment to make that work for the county, and that's what they're requesting.
Understood.
Does that answer your question, Alderman Burnett?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay, for me, I support the current zoning as well. Whenever the property owner come to us, when they were wanting to do what they did there with the curb cuts off of our street, and we went through quite a bit with them on making sure that they had a dig cells area and all. And at that time, the discussion was some sort of a commercial entity, not a residential entity. And when we looked at that, we looked at it from the commercial standpoint. We did not look at it from a residential standpoint. So I would support your questioning and your discussion with Amy Brooks, Vice Mayor Pavlin. I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
And with that, I'll ask the town recorder for a roll call vote on this resolution, please.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Alderman Pinchuk, yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yeah.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that resolution R 2020-08 has been approved as stated. Okay, next will be approval of change order number 1, contract 2020-05, resurfacing of streets.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right. I'm sorry, I'm kind of new to this, so bear with me, please. This is contract 2020-05, resurfacing of streets, change order number 1. The purpose of this item is to allow for payment for additional work outside the scope of our current resurfacing contract. If you've been down McPhee Road anytime lately, right in front of Bridgemore subdivision, there is pretty severe deformation of the roadway as well as the curb and gutter and sidewalk. We wanted to include that in this year's resurfacing contract, but we weren't quite sure what was going to happen with the schedule with the McPhee Park project. I didn't want to build a really nice repair and then turn 8,000 dump trucks loose on top of it. But that contract has been moving along very well. The McPhee Park project, I think they will be through with hauling in the fill dirt probably over the next couple of weeks. So we would like to go ahead and make repairs to McPhee Road right there by Bridgemore Boulevard. Allison, if you could put that map up on the screen. There it is. Fairly significant repairs, unfortunately. It includes 200 feet of full depth replacement, and most likely will require undercutting some of the dirt that is under the base stone. Additionally, there's 100 feet of curb and gutter and sidewalk that will need to be replaced. And then we feel like we can take out the minor deformations to the south of that area just with the milling and resurfacing. We have talked with several contractors and our maintenance contractor. We're looking for the best prices to do this. As it turns out, the unit prices we already have, in addition to some new unit prices that are shown in your packet, we feel like that APAC Atlantic is probably best suited and has really the best price. It is still a fairly expensive repair. With conservative numbers, we're looking at $99,810. So staff would recommend approval of change order number 1, contract 2020-05, for additional work to make repairs to McPhee Road near Bridgemore Boulevard.
I'm going to move for approval.
I'll second.
Okay. Let's see here. We'll start off with discussion. I guess we'll start off with Alderman Burnett, since you drive that road quite frequently.
Yeah, I was glad to see this one come on the agenda. That right in front of Bridgemore is very, very bad, and we're even seeing cars bottom out just driving through. So I'm glad we're addressing it. Daryl, is the plan next year to resurface all of McPhee Road, and we're just adding this small portion in early?
Probably not all of McPhee Road. We're going to give it more thought and just see what kind of budget numbers we'll have. Right now, I think, including this the current contract plus this next year, I think there's a total of about 800,000. Allison, you can correct me if I'm wrong there. We would like to do as much as we can, put it that way. It's important to go ahead and make the repairs so that that portion will be done by the time we do the resurfacing.
Sure. I have no other comments. Thanks.
Okay. And Alderman Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor. So just to make sure I understand, Daryl, so the 99,000, or I guess really it's about 100,000, that's going to go to this repair, which I also agree is needed because I've driven this road and thought I popped a tire, literally. It's bad. So definitely don't disagree. It needs to be fixed. What I want to make sure, though, is that if we spend the 100,000 on this, that we won't be spending more money to redo it again. So in other words, is the 100,000 going to be spent to fix this part of the road and then it'll be done and we don't have to pay additional money for somebody to come after this fix and do something to it again?
That would be my hope, yes. I think we want to take a very close look at the subgrade in the area where it's at its worst. Something's going on there. Not sure if it's just wet material or what, but it is a severe problem.
So when you say you hope, or I'm assuming that what I take from that is that it might be 100,000, or we might go in and find it could be even more, based on what is found during the repair?
I think we've used fairly conservative quantities in our estimate. We've got 40 cubic yards of undercut set up for this, and that's quite a bit. We should be able to bridge that with more stone, if nothing else.
Okay.
I'm thinking this will be a permanent fix.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Pinchot.
Yeah, the current dialogue has answered all my questions. I'm fine. I'll pass.
Okay, Vice Mayor Pavlin.
Daryl, are there ADA ramps that need to be replaced with this? Is an issue? Did you hear me?
I did. That's a good question. I believe we're okay there. I will check that.
Okay, because obviously we're going to have to do that. If we're doing that, we'll have to replace the ramps,
Right.
correct?
Well, I think we may not be getting into the ramp that's right there on Bridgemore Boulevard. It could be argued that it's on either of those two roads, but
Okay.
we will definitely take a look at that.
Okay. David, on that note, have we hit our ADA for the year with all the ramps that we just replaced?
Vice Mayor, we've more than hit our budget numbers on the ADA. In fact, we spent well over, I think, $150,000 on the ramps that we had on Smith Road and Grigsby Chapel in that area. So, but we're pulling a lot of that money out of the State Street Aid Fund because those ramps go along with the road. So we've been using those monies that way.
Okay, I'm just making sure that we're staying in good with the government.
We have made great progress on our ADA stuff with our restrooms, town hall restrooms, things around this building, and now all these curb ramps. I think we're making quite a bit of progress.
They should be very happy with us. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor Pavlin. Daryl, I've got one question on the drainage right in that area.
Yes.
Do we foresee that there is a drainage issue there underneath that road?
I don't think it's a problem with the drainage structure or pipe. It may actually be a problem with over irrigation just to the west or south.
That would make sense. My concern is that there may be some sort of underground water issue there that we're not aware of. Will we check that? Will we do some
We will be looking
stuff?
for that. We will be looking for that, and it might be possible that we would wind up putting an under drain in there when we backfill everything. That should be a fairly easy thing to do when replacing the sidewalk and curb and gutter.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had. Okay, with that, any more discussion? I'll ask the town recorder to take a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchot.
Alderman Pinchot, yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show the change order number one has been approved as requested. Next will be approval of change order number 2, contract 2020-08, Campbell Station Inn, phase 3.
In your packets is a request from Merit Construction for additional payment and time extension on the Campbell Station Inn Phase 3 project. As you know, this Merit has been working on that for some time. In their request, it's split up into 3 portions. I'll go through the 3 here. The first portion is weather delays. Merit has requested 50-day time extension on their contract simply due to the weather. Looking at how the contract is written, the specifications we want to be fairly we definitely want to be fair, at least fairly generous in looking at the weather. The fact is, October through February was extremely wet. They had an awful lot of days that they couldn't get on the site. There were several days that it wasn't dry enough. Even if it didn't rain, it wasn't dry enough to go on the site. While they've requested 50-day time extension, staff feels the best that we can support is 27 days of additional time due to adverse weather. Now, there's no cost to this. It's just additional days on the contract. The next portion of this request, PCO 6, it's a rework of storm drainage and additional structures at the corner of Campbell Station and Kingston Pike. There is an area drain, I guess, kind of to the west of that concrete plaza right there on the corner at the intersection, that the plans called for tying that into a drainage structure that, as it turns out, they couldn't find. They had to reroute that drainage, and there's an awful lot of utilities in that area, and it required a lot of additional work, additional structures, and additional time to tie that into a different drainage structure. They requested what totals $10,803 and an 8-day time extension. The next portion of this request is PCO 7, addition of a retaining curb at the planter. Now, if you look in the very lower right-hand corner in that drawing that's on the screen, you can see the round planter right at the corner of Campbell Station and Kingston Pike. There are utility conflicts just below the surface right there. And in addition to that, we feel like it needed to be built up. That is a very prominent corner here in the town. And to build that up makes it a lot easier to maintain the landscaping features, and it's much better to plant in deeper soil. So PCO 7 has a total cost of $1,902 with a 2-day time extension. So all told, with these three pieces of this request, change order number 2 is $12,705 with 37 days of additional time. So I will read the proposed motion here. Approval of change order number 2 for additional work provided under contract 2020-08, Campbell Station in Phase 3 with a total cost of $12,705 and a 37-day time extension.
I'm going to move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I'll start out with discussion on this one. I think the amount of time they're asking for extension is out of line. They need to get with it, is the best way to put it. They had a contractor that obviously was not on top of things to begin with as far as the dirt moving. And I disagree. I don't think it just rained on that side of the street, because what was going on the opposite side of the street, they were working when those guys were standing around. So I'm a little concerned about the extension request of that many days. Also, I wonder how many more times they're going to build those steps there. Do you know, Darrell?
Well, I saw that they had taken the forms off in the last day or so. I noticed that today. Hopefully that's it.
Okay. Is that part of the buildup? I mean, the fact that they've tore the steps out so many times and started all over again, or is that?
They've only torn them out the one time. Unfortunately, when they took the forms off, there were voids. The concrete was a little too set by the time it got here, and it was on a hot day. I'm not going to make any excuses for it, but the fact is, it just didn't work. There was no way to patch that and have a patch that we would be happy with for the long term. So those original steps that were poured, I don't know, a few weeks ago, they were rejected.
Well, I've seen 2 sets, of steps. But you say there was just one?
There was just one, yes.
Okay.
And that's certainly a big cost to them, but we're not paying for what was torn out.
Well, if you got worker bees that are out there working and they're making mistakes, then I guess they need days of extension to take care of their mistakes. And I disagree with that part totally, but I'll move on to someone else. I guess Alderman Burnett.
Yeah, I support the town staff's recommendation.
Okay. Alderman Meyer.
I support the recommendation with a firm message to get it done. And that's all.
Vice Mayor Pavlin.
I echo Alderman Meyer's words.
Alderman Pinchot.
Yeah, I just want clarification. This 37-day extension, what is the final date that we're looking for this to complete? Give me a date.
Well, there is another request out there that's coming. We have requested additional backup material that if you make a request like this, you have to be able to back it up with why you feel like it's appropriate. So there will be additional time. Right now, I think we're looking at the middle of September.
All right, thank you.
Well, that's pretty sorry. I just hope they don't have the same problem with with our park on McPhee Road. Okay, I'll ask town recorder for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Meyer.
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Alderman Pinchot.
Alderman Pinchot, yes.
Alderman Pavlin.
Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Burnett.
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, begrudgingly, yes. Okay, let the record show that change order 2 has been approved as requested.
If I may add to that, I will pass along your message as far as getting this thing done. I will make sure that they are aware that all of the board members pointed out that they just want to see this thing done and done right. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you.
Okay, next will be our 2 items that are the part of the amendment part of the agenda, and we'll start off with approval of Legacy Parks Foundation Charitable Assistance Agreement.
Mayor, this is David. I'm going to kind of put both of these items together as I discuss it. Town Attorney Tom Hale is on the line. He's been working very closely with the Legacy Parks and with the property owners to get this whole transaction completed. But several months ago, we were was brought to us from a very generous anonymous donor that they wanted to buy the property at 623 Concord Road and donate it to the town. There is a red, it's called the Red Mill Dam, that has been on this property for probably 100 years now. Was part of the quarry from this area. And it's very unique. You can't really see it from the road. It's been on private property for a number of years, so a lot of people don't even know it's there. And he wanted to preserve that and allow the town to, be able to put some trails in or something so that the public could really enjoy this and view this and see just a great piece of kind of Farragut history here in our community. So as we were going through these discussions, we realized we needed to have a conduit to be able to gift this to the town. And so we began discussing this with Legacy Parks Foundation. Obviously, they do this for all of Knox County and several other entities around us, where they either attain property or they receive monies from people that are wanting to make charitable donations, and then they go and purchase properties or give those monies to counties and cities to purchase property. So in this case, we were working with Legacy Parks, and they worked out an agreement for the property owners and the donor to purchase the property, which just happened this week. And then obviously tonight we're going to look at quit claiming that property over to the town. So the first agreement that you have before you is an agreement just between the town and Legacy Parks. And what it allows for is Legacy Parks to basically be that conduit. If we have future projects, I know we've talked a lot about McPhee and the community center, different things in the future we want to do, where people want to give money and get a charitable donation, they can give that money to Legacy Parks. They will then remit those dollars to the town. The only charge they have is a 1% administrative charge to handle that transaction. And that is the only thing they would be requesting from us. So that is the first item on your agenda, is the approval of the agreement with Legacy Parks. The second item would be approval of the acceptance of the property via the quitclaim deed. And so what we would ask as a motion for that would be to approve the quitclaim deed with restrictions for the property located at 623 Concord Road, and authorize the mayor and town attorney to execute all documents to finalize the acceptance of the property. Now, I will say there are some restrictions with the property. We cannot build ball fields. We cannot build major structures on the property, but we can certainly keep it a passive type of area where people can get to. We can build trails. We can build trailheads. We can do learning centers, maybe for markers, things like that. So those are the types of things we're allowed to do, as well as if we ever needed to, let's say, put utilities through here for some reason, or the road has to expand again. Those are things that would certainly be allowed as well. So that is all I have. I think, again, Tom Hale is on the line. He can answer more specific questions about the transaction or anything else that may occur. But we would ask your approval of both items tonight that are on the agenda.
Mayor Williams, why don't I start with the first motion? I'm just going to say what David said, because that was a mouthful. So for the first motion is a move for approval of Legacy Parks Foundation Charitable Assistance Agreement.
It's Alderman Pinchuk, I'll second it.
Attorney Hale can answer, and we'll start out with Alderman Meyer.
I believe this is a very generous gift, and I'm very appreciative of it, and I support the staff recommendation. And that's all.
Okay. Alderman Burnett.
Yeah, also like to echo the thanks to the anonymous donor. I think this can be a huge asset in the future to our town, so I'm excited.
Alderman Pinchuk.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for us, and I'm all for it. So I support it 100%.
Vice Mayor Coughlin.
I 100% support it, but I have a question. If you go to the map, Allison, can you pull up the map? You see where the Bridgewater, the Turkey Creek Harbor path is. That is in Bridgewater HOA land. Is there an ability for the town to, I know that the stream, the Turkey Creek is on our side, so we could build a bridge on that. But what would it take to get a trail from a bridge? And I'm just talking way out in the future someday when we have money again. How do you build a trail to that HOA in that HOA land? Would the town of Farragut wouldn't even be able to, would we be able to do that? That's my question, David.
Well, we would just need to work with the HOA on getting an easement over across the waterway there. It's a pretty good stretch, I think, when you talk about the floodway in that area. It'd be a pretty wide, long bridge to get to that other side.
Okay.
But certainly that is an option, and I think that's something we would just need to talk to the HOA about because we do have that greenway on that side. It'd make a great loop through that area. Even if we were able to put a greenway all the way through our property, we have property to the north, and so that's another opportunity for us to continue that trail a little bit further as well.
Okay. And that is something that is permissible. We can put a trail in there.
Absolutely, that is permissible by those are no restrictions on trails.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay, David, also no restrictions on a bridge.
Tom, go ahead. I'll let you answer.
I think I think the bridge would be permitted by, or it would not be prohibited by the restrictions that are in there. Where we might have, anytime we build a bridge in one of these stream areas, we have to deal with FEMA. So there would only be, I think that would be the main issue, is making sure that what we built in there did not impact the flow of the water through that area. We've had an issue down in that area once before with FEMA, and we'd have to be very careful about how we went about it.
And part of that in the floodplain, David?
It's in the floodway, yes.
Okay.
A lot of that area.
Okay.
And actually, just reiterating on the bridge part, the donor actually would love for us to put a bridge there, kind of in front of where the dam is, so that way people could cross the bridge and see the dam even better. Because even on the side, it's still a little difficult to see. You're looking at the picture that's on your screen right now is actually looking kind of right in the middle of the creek. So that's not the view shed that people will have from the property, but certainly, I think long-range planning, it would be great to be able to put a pedestrian bridge across that. And I think the key is we're talking pedestrian bridges. There cannot be any motor vehicle use for these trails we're talking about.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, pedestrian only.
This is Alderman Pinchuk. I got a question. Is there any type of path or walkway of any sort through this property right now?
I've been trying to figure out how to get down there, and I hadn't figured out how to get there unless I trespass over the Myers property.
No, sir. There are no paths on this property. It's very steep terrain. I will say that I've had some just very initial discussions with First Utility District. They have a piece of property to our south that they are going to use for a future pump station or something that they need. But I think there'll be enough land there that we may be able to have a little parking lot or put some parking there and then be able to access our property a lot easier. And so I think that's our opportunity to get on site in the future is through that area.
Okay, David, for the folks on TV that's watching this, can you point where the dam is at on this drawing?
I'm going to see if Allison can give me the right to annotate on here just a second. And all right, let's see. It is going to be right in this area is where the dam is at. Did that just go away? There.
Okay.
It's right in that area. So part of it is on our property, would be on the town's property, and part of it actually is going to wind up being on the Bridgewater HOA property.
Are you talking about a bridge?
No, I'm talking about the dam itself.
Oh, the dam itself.
The dam itself. It actually spans two different parcels. It's pretty confusing when you look at the survey. Tom's probably looked at it specifically, but it does span more than just our property.
You got something to add, Tom?
Yeah, I think just for clarification purposes, the this drawing that we're looking at came off of KGIS. KGIS is not necessarily survey material. I think that if we had a survey done of this property, and I've seen a survey, it's not quite, this outline is not quite accurate. So it's not materially different, but there where the L is located, and it's hard for me I can't really point it out from where I am, but the land does not, that we would be receiving as part of this gift does not encompass this whole little square that crosses over the water. That's the way it looks from the survey that I have seen. So we have, I guess it would have been better if we could have a survey so you'd know exactly what it is. It's not materially different given the nature of the land down there, because the land down there is pretty rugged. I mean, there's not much else you could do except go to the nature trail and look at the dam. So I just wanted to make sure you, if one day you see a survey and it looks different than this, slightly different than this, you won't be surprised. But it's still available for what we need to use it for. And I don't think that the difference in what I saw on the survey and what's on there really is that material. The one other point I would make is that the 1% fee that would go to Legacy Parks Foundation in future transactions doesn't apply to this particular transaction. They're doing it just because they think it's a great idea. Okay, there's the survey based on the survey that was done quite some time ago. So if you see what I'm talking about on that drawing, it looked like that we were going across the water over to the well, I think you can just look at it and compare it in your mind. It's hard for me to describe the differences.
That's
radically different. Property. Can you show where the dam is, David?
Yeah, I'm working on it right now. It's right here.
Allison, can you email us the copy of that, please? Not tonight, just tomorrow. Put a note.
Okay, I got it.
You can see how it splits the property right there between ours and the, it looks like the Bridgewater HOA property.
And you can't get to it from the Bridgewater side either?
No, I think it's heavily vegetated down that whole area, Mayor.
Okay. Yeah, that's quite a bit different than what that drawing was, because that shows that it don't go as far over to the Myers property at all.
That's right.
And it barely touches the town of Farragut's property up in the corner.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
But it contains the same part of the dam that the other one did.
Okay.
And we're not buying it; they're giving it to us. So it when somebody gives you something, I guess beggars can't be choosy.
Oh no, I didn't mean it that way.
I know you didn't. I'm just teasing.
My mother-in-law says, if it's free, take it.
As long as there's no strings attached, yeah.
There you go.
Okay, then I guess any other discussion? If not, then I'll ask the town recorder for a roll call vote, please.
All right, this is on the Legacy Parks agreement. It's Alderman Pinchuk.
Alderman Pinchuk, yes.
Alderman Pavel.
Alderman Burnett,
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer, Alderman Meyer.
What happened?
Drop-
Alderman Meyer, yes.
Oh, here he is. Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that the agreement has been approved, and next will be approval of the acceptance of the property located at 623 Concord Road. We need a motion on that. And Louise done made it, that's right, per David's
Yes.
description. Now I need a second.
Alderman Pinchuk, it's a second.
Okay. Any discussion? If so, please speak up.
I have not.
I have none.
I have none. Okay, then we'll ask again the town recorder for a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Pavlin,
Sorry, Alderman Pavlin, yes.
Alderman Burnett,
Alderman Burnett, yes.
Alderman Meyer, Alderman Meyer,
Alderman Meyer,
yes.
sorry.
Alderman Pinchuk,
Alderman Pinchuk, yes.
Mayor Williams.
Mayor Williams, yes. Let the record show that the board has approved the acceptance of the quitclaim deed for the property located at 623 Concord Road. Okay, next will be the town administrator's report. David?
Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to Tom Hale for this whole transaction. This has been one that's been going on for months and months and has really taken a twists and turns trying to get it approved and all the players that had to get it approved. So I just really appreciate Tom's efforts in helping us with this. So thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
I also wanted to share with the board, recently we went through the state of Tennessee and ordered, obviously with health guidelines now, our health mandates from the Knox County Board of Health requires face masks. And we were able to get a first order of face masks in that look like these. So you put them on. You got the Farragut mask with the anchor and the stream there. So we're going to be providing these to all students in all of our schools, our public schools here in Farragut. Certainly we could do more. We also wanted to get some for the teachers as well, and obviously all of our employees. So we're going to be ordering quite a few masks here in the next few weeks and try to get those out as quickly as we can. But we're excited about having a Farragut mask, a branded mask that the community can really get behind and use. So with that, that's the only thing I have to report tonight, and be happy to try to answer any questions from the board.
Okay, thank you, David, and thank you, Tom. Thank you again for your attendance tonight and the hard work it took to get us to where we're at. And I'll be happy to sign whatever I need to sign tomorrow.
We'll get it to you in the morning. If any of you run into Carol Evans, who runs the Legacy Parks Foundation, they have been very, very accommodating to try to get this accomplished. And so if you happen to see her, you might want to extend to her some thanks. And I wish we could tell you who the donor was. We can't, but it's a very, very nice thing that this person has done. And I think it's going to be a really good thing for the town in the long term. There were a few little issues along the way that I won't really bore you with. But it's been an interesting project. That's all I have.
Okay, well, it's another piece of the history that for our town to go along with the house and some other locations. So it's a great deal. Okay, next will be a citizens forum. Pursuant to the governor's executive order, we ask that all citizens' comments be emailed to comment@townoffarragut.org, which must, along with their name and address, be received by 12 p.m. the day of the meeting. to be included in the record of that night's meeting. They must also abide by the public forum protocol in order to be read into the record. And I'll now ask the town recorder to please read in all eligible comments or questions with a 5-minute limit on each subject matter, please.
Yes, sir. Tonight we have two speakers. The first one is Mike Mitchell at 716 Brooksworth. He says, Mayor and Aldermen, I'm requesting that you instruct the lobbyists of the town of Farragut to set meetings with the state legislature and the governor to halt HB 2279, which is the Competitive Wireless Broadband Investment, Deployment, and Safety Act of 2018, until an independent medical study can show this 5G technology is safe as described in the Farragut 5G resolution you passed earlier this year. I also request that you instruct the Farragut Planning Commission to step up the schedule for the 5G aesthetics plan for Farragut. Vice Mayor Povlin said she expected this to take a year to complete. This is too long. I also request that the Farragut ordinance that protects trees and shrubs in the right-of-way be reviewed so as to provide protection to HB 2279. These two items should be a very high priority for the Planning Commission. Residents need protection now. I request that a workshop in the Farragut Planning Commission to be scheduled for the Environmental Health Trust to testify on the 5G dangers to property and health. This past week, 2 major independent lawsuits have been filed in federal court against the Federal Commission's FCC concerning 5G, 4G cell towers and antennas close to homes, schools, and hospitals. And he has to please forward this information to the Farragut lobbyist. Our second speaker is Andy Rapini. He is at 12805 Pecos Road. I would like to repeat my request to the mayor and aldermen. Please, can you let the residents know what basis the town used to decide whether a connection to Pecos Road would meet the IFC remitance requirements? In particular, what information did the fire marshal and other town officials use, and when did they do the calculation specified by the code? With regard to the flooding on Pecos Road, this flooding did not occur because of an unusual amount of rain, but because the grading and drainage in and around the new subdivision is inappropriate and inadequate, and because the flood erosion controls required by the state do not appear to have been implemented. The developer appears to not be complying with any of the requirements of the SWPPP. This has resulted in the flooding of Pecos Road and nearby lots. After complaints from local residents, the developer has taken some remedial steps, but these still don't appear to meet the design in the SWPPP and were performed after the timescale specified by the SWPPP. The town appears to have systematically neglected to enforce the requirements. I believe that any flooding, property damage, and personal injuries that result from this are largely because the town has failed in its oversight of the design process and its duty to enforce permit and code requirements. And the other one is to the Farragut Planning Commission, and he also requested it be read to the mayor and alderman. I'm writing to notify the town that their response to the safety concerns I raised was surprising and disappointing. Converting a quiet residential road without sidewalks, with children have to walk along to get to the school bus stop, into a major access for a new development, all without adding any safety measures, still seems to be dangerous and irresponsible. However, the reply from the town was inconsistent and in fact raises fresh concerns. It says, whereas there are several junctions in nearby subdivisions that were previously open to vehicular traffic, but which are now limited to pedestrian and bicycles. This fact contradicts the town's claim that to not add a new traffic connection to Pecos Road would set a precedent. Setting a precedent such as this would have long-term damage consequences for our community. He's attached some pictures to the email. It is really not clear why the town insists on a different solution here. The grading in the new subdivision has created a flood hazard for Saddle Ridge. He also attached more pictures. There have now been floods on at least 3 separate occasions, July 30th, July 31st, and August 5th. These floods are because the developer has significantly raised the level of the new development, as well as removed the existing flood protection in order to connect to Pecos Road. It also appears they have failed to install required erosion control measures. Number 3, making a connection to Pecos Road to the new development clearly does not satisfy the requirements of the International Fire Code. Supporting evidence for each of these claims is attached below. Overall, it appears that the town is not looking out for the existing residents of Saddle Ridge subdivision and is indeed acting on behalf of the developer. There seems to be a little enforcement of wastewater management, lack of adequate runoff prevention, construction plans. The current disturbed area seems to extend beyond the current limits of work, or numerous other things that look like violations to the untrained eye. Issues relating to several of these concerns have been raised during the planning meetings and by other residents. And if the town had acted on the concerns raised by the residents of Saddle Ridge subdivision in a timely manner, they would have been able to avoid most of the problems. However, town officials appear to be selectively choosing not to enforce code requirements from the new development. That's from Andrew Lapini. And that concludes our citizen comments.
Okay, tonight we're going to have a little bit of comment from David Smoke, and also I think Vice Mayor Pavlin has something to say as well.
Yeah, can I go first, David? Okay, I was going to address Mr. Mitchell's letter. I wrote out my response. So with regard to the aesthetic plan, I agree with Mr. Mitchell that this needs to be finished in a timely manner. I reviewed the last meeting, the June meeting, and while I indicated that we need to take our time to get it right, I don't recall saying it would take a year to complete. I don't expect it to take a year. Finally, I will remind everyone that in June, when we began this discussion, we were mercilessly taken to task by Mr. Mitchell for beginning the work on an aesthetic plan. We received several disrespectful emails slamming us for beginning this discussion. Additionally, I'll remind everyone that we wanted the conversation to preserve any rights we have with regard to an aesthetic plan. Many of the protections we had built into our 2017 communications ordinance. And with regard to our tree protection ordinance, I met with David Smoke on July 21st to discuss a few different policy and ordinance amendments. The tree protection ordinance was among these items discussed. Mark Shipley put together some language to amend the ordinance, which was discussed during our staff developer meeting last week and is on next week's Planning Commission agenda for a discussion and public hearing, so it can be moved on to this body for approval to protect our trees and in our rights of way. I will also add, I have responded to Mr. Lupini's original email. He responded back, and now I'm formulating a final response. There's a lot of confusion about our traffic calming policy and road closures and the ordinance for road closures. And I get frustrated when the accusation is made that we're doing something dishonest when, in fact, what really is the problem is that there is a lack of understanding of the policies and the ordinances in the town. So I'm trying to write a detailed email to explain all of that to Mr. Lupini, but I have to admit I've spent a lot of time responding to emails from Saddle Ridge, as you all well know, and I'm the things that I'm trying to get work on. I'm just struggling to keep it all going. So I think I might be coming to an end where I can't address anymore. I'm at a loss as to how to help Saddle Ridge, but stay within the policies and maintain a robust transportation system. So those were the issues. That's all I had.
Okay, David.
Yes, sir, Mayor. I'll just add a couple points here. One is regarding the small cell information. You know, the town has been working since January of this year with our state representatives in trying to get legislation both put in last session and also working on legislation for this next session to allow local governments more control over where small cells are located, how close they're put together, things like that, that frankly the state law and the FCC don't give us a lot of wiggle room on. Whatever we do have any kind of opportunity to get some of that wiggle room and some of that regulatory authority, we're going to try to ask for in this next session. Now, I know our state representatives here locally are very open-minded to helping us with that. We've also had discussions at the federal level on this issue. So we have been working on this and will continue to work on this until we can get some traction at both of those stages. I know that the residents in Saddle Ridge are frustrated by the stormwater runoff that has come down, and this particularly on Pecos Road. We're equally frustrated from the town's perspective. That's why after we went out there the first 2 times and they added additional silt fence and things like that, they still received a notice of violation from us because they hadn't done enough. And I know tonight we had another pretty big downpour that occurred this afternoon, and apparently there was still some more debris and stream cleanup going down Pecos that needs to get taken care of. The thing we need to get the contractor, the developer to do is get that finished grade as quickly as possible in that area and get it stabilized. And once that happens, a lot of those issues will resolve themselves. But we will go back out there and we will continue to work with that developer and make sure that they are complying with all of the erosion control measures they need to comply with, and that our stormwater regulations are followed. And if not, we will continue to serve notices of violation upon them if they don't. So we take it seriously, and we are listening, and we want to make sure that the developer next door is a good neighbor to everyone around that area, not just on Pecos, but in Fox Run and everywhere else too.
David, can I add a little bit? I will say, with all the other issues that we're dealing with, that we are trying to educate them on, this is really, it is unacceptable. I understand they're in the process of finishing up the stormwater infrastructure in that area, and this issue isn't going to go away until the road is in, the catch basins are in, and all the stormwater infrastructure is in. And it's very frustrating that it's taking, it feels like forever, because every time you get a downpour, you know that you're going to have this issue on Pecos Road. Daryl, is there any idea when they will have this road in and the catch basins in, and the stormwater infrastructure completed in that area?
I know they have every incentive to get it done. In
Yes.
speaking with the contractor and the developer's representative, they are wanting to go ahead and make the tie to Pecos as soon as possible, as soon as weather will allow. Problem is, it's got to be dry enough that the stone is in good condition, so that it can be compacted properly. But it could be as early as next week that they can go ahead and get the tie made, at least with binder.
Okay.
That's not going to be a perfect fix because the binder course of asphalt is it's still below the catch basin grades. But my understanding, they want to do it as soon as possible. And yes, they do want to focus on Pecos and that whole area to get that stabilized. They do understand this. I'm just echoing what I've been told. They do understand the importance of getting, focusing on that.
Okay. I appreciate you relaying that message, because as soon as the skies open up, it's very frustrating. I'm frustrated for them with all the other issues that we're trying to deal with. This is one that we are right in their camp with, as far as this is just not right. So I appreciate you keeping the heat on them. Thank you.
Well, I think it's safe to say they have every right to be upset with the situation as it is right now, but it definitely will improve soon.
Okay, anything else?
This is Alderman Meyer. I just want to echo a little bit of what David said. I was driving today on Kingston Pike during this downpour, and it's almost embarrassing how much of Kingston Pike was almost impassable. And so I'm not looking for any answers tonight, not looking for a long discussion, not trying to pass blame. But if we keep having these kind of downpours, I'm very concerned about the impact of the water flow in various parts of Farragut. And it is truly unacceptable. It is unsafe. I would never want my babies ever driving on Kingston Pike in that kind of rain, nor anybody else's. And so I look forward, David and Daryl, maybe meeting with you all and reviewing whatever we need to review to look at this water flow in our town because it is absolutely not acceptable, period. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Meyer. Anyone else? If not, the time is approximately 8:55. And without objection, August 13th, 2020 Farragut Board Mayor and Alderman meeting was now adjourned. Thanks, folks.